About 8 years ago, I started going to community college, which meant I had long days and classes at random times. When I got home from school, I would always park my car in the church parking lot near my house. I live in a small house behind my parents' house at the time. One day, I noticed that there was a man sitting in this green USV parked a few cars from mine around 9 p.m. when I got home. I thought it was weird because no one parked there at night, as it was in the middle of the suburbs, but I figured that it was likely a one-time thing and forgot about it. The next day, I got home at around 2 p.m. and the car was in the exact same spot with the guy just sitting there, doing nothing. I thought that it was weird that he was there again, but just went to my house and watched TV for a while. I then got a call from my friend down the road asking if I wanted to go on a drive, so I left to go pick her up. I noticed that the same guy was still there, still in his car. He was still there when I got back. This went on for a couple of weeks. He was there every day at all hours, morning, day, and night. He would be there until 4 a.m. some nights. I started to get really weirded out by this, because there were probably 50 or more spaces to park in, and he was always 3 spaces away from mine. He knew I parked there, as I was the only car that parked there, because there was a gate to my house in the fence across from my normal spot. It was very unnerving that he was always there. Finally, one day, I came home and the guy wasn't there, so I decided to park in the spot that he was always in. It didn't seem special, since there were no extra trees in the spot and it faced the fence. There were hills on the other side, which were much prettier and more scenic to look at. Once I parked, I stayed for a few minutes and called one of my friends. Finally, I noticed something horrifying. I could see into every window into my house. I didn't have the curtains at the time, and I had a pretty stupid habit of walking around with my underwear. I mean, I had a huge fence, and there was no way into seeing into my house from the street. I freaked out and realized that he had been watching me. I took my parents' Mastiff and made him stay with me at nights after that. I also stopped parking in the church parking lot, unless it was during the day, and parked in the lot, even though I had opened a huge gate manually to get in and then close it for the dogs. I told my dad, but he thought I was crazy and paranoid. But my mom, she believed me. One day, we got in her truck and drove behind the guy's car to get his license plate number. He got really angry at us, stormed out of his car and yelled at us. My mom basically said, "You're really creepy, you can see into my daughter's house, and you're here all the time of day and night." He said he was cooling down before he went home after he went to the gym. It made no sense. We called the police and they went to his house. It turned out he was a married dude with kids, and he had told them he was listening to his tapes. I had actually snuck along the fence where he couldn't see me at one point, and just listened to what he was doing as his windows were down. He was sitting in silence. There were no tapes, and I never heard them. The police told him that he would be in serious trouble if they basically found him parked there again, and that he basically wasn't allowed there back. I know the police can get a lot of shit sometimes, but they were great during this incident and said they scared him. The next day, he wasn't around and I thought it was over. It was also my friend's birthday, so I went out to dinner that night. I came home at around 11 p.m. and there was another car parked in the same exact fucking spot. I was livid. I knew it was him, but a different car. I told my mom and then just stayed at my parents' house because I was pretty freaked out. My mom decided to drive the car throughout the parking lot to see if he was still there. Once she drove through, she saw that no one was in the car. She figured it was a coincidence and drove past then, turned the car around. Once she turned the car around, she saw a man get up from the crouch position and sped off. Apparently, she thought to herself this was a prime opportunity to follow him. He was going 70 miles per hour on a residential road and went through a few different streets trying to lose my mom. Finally, he went to the main road and there was a red light. My mom pulled up next to him and he pulled his sweater over his face and covered himself with his arm so he couldn't see her. He may have thought it was my dad, who is an NFL player and is very intimidating looking. Once it turned green, he sped off again and after about 10 minutes finally lost my mom. She immediately called the police and they told her that it was very suspicious and that she probably should leave the chase up to the police next time. After that, the man never came back and I got curtains. To this day, I still don't know what his intentions were. I had a huge ass 171 Mastiff, who was very friendly to most people, but was very protective of me and to everyone. I also had a brother who was double state champion, winning hockey player, and a huge dad. But only the one who intimidated him was my mom. Creepy ass church parking lot man. Let's not meet again. I was a young and naive youth minister working at my first job at a church. I was very eager to know my kids and their parents. I had made a pretty active program and we were attracting new kids every day. One day, the single father and little boy showed up. Okay, normal story. The dad is a big guy, not fat, just overall big. But something about him is just creepy. He was missing some teeth, didn't show much, and it fragged my intrusion. The little boy is a troublemaker, so his first day there is already pushing other kids down. He is a bully that has some serious issues. The dad has a sob story that he just left his wife and she was abusive. The little boy starts to show up to youth events, and so does his dad. One day, I am sitting in my office, alone, and I hear something in the copy room. I don't think anything much of it because we keep our doors locked, and you have to have a key or be buzzed to get in. I assume someone with a key is in. Maybe another minister. After a few minutes, I hear a kid's voice, so I stepped outside into the lobby area. It's the creepy dad and the boy. They're going through the cabins in the office. I have no idea how they got there, so I hold my cell phone and stay in the lobby with them. I say that I'm about to run some errands and I have to arm the office, so they will have to leave. In reality, I was going to take a trip around the building to get rid of them. It's an ethnic policy to not be alone with congrats in the building as a protection for not only the congrats, but the ministerial staff. I was going to do anything to get rid of them. As we leave, they go out one door and I go the other. I have my phone ready in my hand in the car, and the creepy dad starts knocking on my car window. I had an older car without power windows at the time, so I reach over and roll down the window. He wants to know if I would babysit his kid someday. He said he left the kid last week and the kid peed all over the apartment, so he was looking for a babysitter that would be good influence on him. I said no. I had other obligations and had no room to fit that in my schedule. He sat trying to open my door for a few minutes, then trying to push the barely open window down, begging me to babysit before I said that I really had to run an errand at that moment. He finally leaves and I drive away. I know he will be there for a while waiting for me to return, so I go get an iced tea and a snack at my favorite fast food restaurant. I drive back to the church and he's still there. I called one of the older people that I knew lived close by. He agreed to meet me at the church. By the time we both got there, the creepy dad and the kid were gone. The next week, I heard them in the office again. I still have no idea how they were getting in the office or what they were looking for. This time, he has come to tell me his DVD special about Jesus, and he wants to invite me over to talk about it and eat dinner. He said he would even buy wine. I told him no. That is not something that I can do. He then invites me to the youth group to come over to his apartment and watch the Jesus movie. I suggested that we could watch the Jesus movie if it was at the church, but that's all. He got pretty agitated at this point. It was about this time that I started getting weird text messages. I would get text messages that said, "You look so pretty today," and "I like that blue shirt," almost every day. Mind you, I wasn't even at the church every day. I started putting things together when, one Sunday morning, I was using my cell phone in the front of the church for a children's message when it started to ring. It was that number that I had been getting text messages from. I hadn't ever responded to the number, so I'd ignored it. He kept calling it and laughing in the back of the church. He later said that it was him who had pranked me in the church, so I knew the text messages were coming from him, and I knew he was watching me when I wasn't at the church. About a month later, the text messages were starting to get a little more perverse. I was getting texts from my secret admirer and graphic details of our date he had imagined in his head and was planning for us. I had mentioned the text to my male supervisor a few weeks before. My professor at my seminary, on the other hand, said to completely ignore the messages, which I had been doing. Well, this pissed off the creepy dad. The messages started getting regressive like, if you don't reply you will regret it. A few weeks later, I was at a summer camp with kids at this point, and a fellow female minister looked at me while I was crying about this and basically said that this guy is a pervert and I needed to get rid of the guy. We had a co-minister who was a male, called the guy and told him to stop or I would press charges. The creepy dad then went and complained about me to the church broad, saying I was leading him on and I was the one sending him the pervert and graphic text. He had imagined that I was flirting with him while at church when I talked to him and his kid, when in reality it was my job. It was at this point that the senior minister actually listened to me, read the messages that I had been forwarding to the senior minister from the creepy dad, and was shocked about what was going on. My supervisor didn't believe me at first, saying that sexual assault doesn't happen in the church from a congregant to a minister. It was at this point whenever I did something in the service like pray or preach, the creepy dad would walk and stare at me from a window outside until my part was done, and then the creepy dad would return to the sanctuary. It was at this point that a congregant member who was friends with the lady minister above put all things together and that he wasn't just sending me messages, but 2 other 5 ladies in the church. As things turn out, he has been going around to various churches in the area, preying on single women in the congregation and using his kid as a blade to get sympathy so he could have sex with them. It turned into a huge fiasco because the church didn't want to ask him to leave because it was open to everyone. But we had a predator in the congregation that made many people feel uncomfortable. He ended up having to move because of his job, but I'm still creeped out about him to this day.